As the construction industry shifts towards more sustainable practices, mass timber has emerged as a popular material, known for its potential to reduce the carbon footprint of buildings. However, several myths and misconceptions persist around its environmental benefits. In this video, we'll examine some of these misunderstandings to try and clarify what mass timber can genuinely offer and where its limitations lie. Now, before we go into the rest of the video, I would like to apologize for the audio. I initially recorded this video 2 weeks ago, but it seems like the audio hasn't been captured correctly. Due to the enormous amount of time that I have to put into school, I unfortunately do not have the time to completely re-record the video. So again, apologies, but hopefully you still find the video interesting. Myth number 1. Mass timber buildings absorb carbon emissions. While it's true that trees sequester carbon during their growth, the story changes once they've been fully processed into mass timber. In its raw state, timber acts as a carbon sink, capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere as the tree grows. However, by the time that the wood is harvested, dried, and treated to form mass timber, its ability to capture additional carbon dioxide is terminated. It remains a carbon store, preventing the release of CO2 into the atmosphere as long as the timber is intact. But it's crucial to remember that mass timber alone does not contribute to further carbon absorption post-processing. Myth number 2. Mass timber buildings are always carbon neutral or carbon negative. The concept that mass timber buildings are inherently carbon neutral or even carbon negative is overly simplistic. While mass timber can absolutely contribute to carbon neutrality by storing carbon, the full life cycle emissions that are associated with the material must be considered. Carbon emissions are generated at various stages of the building's life cycle, including transportation, construction, and eventual demolition or repurposing. Transportation of mass timber to the building site, the energy that's used during construction, and emissions at the end of the timber's life can all add up to significant carbon costs. Only by evaluating all of these factors holistically can we truly understand the carbon footprint of mass timber buildings. So simply using timber for a building project does not guarantee carbon neutrality or negativity. Myth number 3. Mass timber buildings are always more sustainable than steel or concrete buildings. While mass timber can often be a more sustainable choice, this isn't universally true. Just like with the previous myth about mass timber buildings always being carbon neutral or carbon negative, comparing sustainability between mass timber, steel, and concrete should be based on the full life cycle emissions instead of just the raw materials. Steel and carbon have high embodied energy, meaning they require substantial energy and therefore carbon emissions to produce. Mass timber, on the other hand, generally has a lower embodied energy. However, sustainability isn't purely based on embodied energy. The entire life cycle emissions of a building, like we mentioned before, influence its environmental impact. In some cases, highly efficient steel or concrete can compete with or even outperform poorly managed timber in terms of sustainability. Therefore, a life cycle analysis is key in determining the overall environmental impact. Myth number 4. Adhesives used in mass timber negate its environmental benefits. Adhesives are indeed a concern in mass timber products, especially in products that use a lot of it, like parallel strand lumber or laminated strand lumber. However, adhesives do not necessarily negate all of mass timber's environmental benefits. Many traditional adhesives, such as phenolic adhesives, are synthetic and can hinder recycling or biodegradation of timber products. However, bio-based alternatives are now emerging, offering a more sustainable option. Moreover, in most mass timber products, adhesives only make up a fraction of the total product, meaning they do not necessarily offset the carbon storing benefits of mass timber. While improvements in adhesive technology are needed and very welcome to maximize the eco-friendliness of the material, adhesives alone do not cancel out the environmental benefits of using timber. Myth number 5. Mass timber releases all the stored carbon at the end of its life. There is a common misconception that mass timber releases all of its stored carbon at the end of its useful life. However, several end-of-life options exist that can mitigate or delay this carbon release. Mass timber elements can be reused in new structures, repurposed for new applications, recycled or composted. It can also be converted into biomass energy, which releases carbon but may offset emissions from fossil fuels. And as a last resort, if none of the other options that were just mentioned are achievable, the elements can be sent to landfill. The chosen end-of-life pathway plays a critical role in determining whether mass timber acts as a source of carbon emissions or serves as a carbon sink for a longer period of time. As the end-of-life options are so incredibly important in the discussion surrounding the sustainability of mass timber, we will be uploading a video about the mentioned options and more in more detail. Subscribe so you'll be notified when we upload this video. And if you're interested in another specific topic, let us know in the comments below.
Stay informed, stay inspired. Timber Talk.